Hey there, my handsome and pretty little Cobras, and welcome back to the Cobra's Nest. For those of you who are new, my name is Mignon Cobra, and I make minimalist videos. Today's video is going to be money related, and the topic is how to live below your means. So, without further ado, let's just get to the video. Let's get it, let's go. Woo! Okay, I just have like my little notes here. Number 1, look at your fantasy self. I have made videos in the past talking about how I used minimalism to embrace my fantasy self, but I think that this is an area that you have to be quite careful with. If you want to live below your means, you need to examine what is a realistic and an idealized version of yourself. You have to figure out that fine line between who you can be and who you want to be and what is just essentially a fantasy. And you also need to examine how much is this fantasy really costing you. Once you figure out these things, you will be able to figure out whether you want to essentially let go of this fantasy self, or at the very least understand what's going on, because a lot of the times the things that we spend our money on unnecessarily is to fuel this fantasy of who we have in our heads. Number 2, extra food/food waste. This one is because we are quite privileged to live in a society where there is an abundance of food. A lot of people don't have the ability to waste food. I know when I was a broke student, I couldn't fathom the idea of wasting food. I think first we should recognize the privilege that it is to have food waste. And the second is, if there is food waste, to examine why is there food waste. I think understanding why there's food waste will definitely help curate this. You paid for it or somebody paid for it. Not like scraps or compost. I'm talking like legit food waste. Perhaps you are serving yourself more than you need. Perhaps you are buying out of boredom. Perhaps you can't finish what you're serving yourself. Somebody's serving you more than you can finish. It's important to take a look at the reasons as to why and the causes of food waste in order to help eliminate this. Number 3, comparing to peers. As humans, we are social beings. It is perfectly understandable and very normal to compare ourselves to our peers to kind of gauge like how are we doing. But as you become older and you stop being a teenager, this metric no longer is useful. Everybody is on their own journey, and comparing yourself to your peers is just setting yourself up for failure. Comparison is the thief of joy. So you are much better off taking a look at where you are in life and what you can do better. I think as Theodore Roosevelt once said, do what you can with what you have, with where you are. What somebody else is doing in their life has nothing to do with you, and the things that we spend our money on while trying to compare ourselves to peers or looking at what our peers are doing and then in turn buying things unnecessarily isn't serving us. So it would serve you well to do you and stay in your own lane. Okay, number 4, seeing luxuries as necessities. This is one that I myself am guilty of. I thought that buying brand name makeup meant that I was buying higher quality makeup, or buying brand name things was an indicator or a marker of its quality. To a certain extent, there is some truth to this, but again, it's to be taken with a grain of salt. If we're trying our best to live below our means, we have to understand that a lot of things, at least in Western society, are made within the same factories. So you can buy the no-name brand and it will serve you just as equally well. We don't need to have a label on something to be the marker of the quality of something. Now, if we're looking at something in terms of like value it brings us, or how much assigned value we're giving something, that is something entirely different. We need to put those two things apart and think, is this luxury something that I really need? Is this luxury serving me? And understanding that luxuries are luxuries. You don't need it. I think that's really important to understand. I'm not saying you can't have luxuries, but I'm saying is you need to understand you don't need them. Number 5, seeking security outside yourself. When you become very secure in who you are as an individual, when you stop seeking approval outside, when you stop using external factors to validate your worth, once you become secure within yourself, a lot of extra frivolous and fluff that we spend our money on will be alleviated. You will have the strength to say no to things, to buying things and doing experiences that don't serve you, that are supposed to make you a better person, but you've already internalized intrinsically that you already are a better person. Those external things are not going to cut it. Very important for us to fix what's on the inside. Nothing on the outside will fix what's wrong on the inside. Number 6, flashy gadgets. If you imagine a frugal lifestyle, do you imagine them with flashy stuff? No, you don't. Flashy gadgets will always come and go. I mean, think of all of the flashy gadgets you have purchased in the past. Like, I will use myself as an example. All of the cell phones that I paid a lot of money for. I bought the iPhone 4 for 600 Canadian. Where is it now? Where's the $600? Gone. There's always going to be new and flashy things. Don't get sucked into it. Don't need it. Say with me. You don't need it. Okay, number 7, decor. People use decor to, of course, decorate their house, and they put up on their walls things that are sentimental and important to them and they want to showcase. But if you are going out and purchasing things just for the sake of decor and there's really no true meaning or sentimentality behind it, it's a waste of money, and you're better off using things that you already use and own and using that as decor for. All right, number 8, knickknacks. What's the deal with humans and collecting knickknacks? I think it's like that innate nature that we like to like hoard little things. We always have this idea that somehow we're going to use this and we're going to use that. Just stop. Knickknacks are the bane of a clear mind and a clear home. Don't waste your money on knickknacks. When has a knickknack ever served you? Just think in your entire life. When did you ever have a knickknack and go, thank God I had X and Y. Good thing I had that knickknack. Never. So if you want to live below your means, if at the very least, don't buy knickknacks. Number 9, buying books. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this one. Hear me out. In the era before technology, fine. In the digital age, you don't need to buy books. I know there's the whole thing about where you buy books online. You can't really like give that to somebody else, and you can't really like once purchased, it's not like you have it and then like resell it. Like at least I don't think that's a thing. I think at least with like Kindle or Amazon, once you purchase something you can't like pass it on. But anyway, I digress. In terms of like buying books, let's say buying books, right? You can buy an online copy of it. If you do buy a book, I highly recommend after you finish reading it, return it to the bookstore. Think of the money difference that you lost as a tuition for the knowledge that you earned. There's a lot of information on the internet. There are libraries if you do live in your native country where you can go and have a share group with your friends, share books. There's a lot of things that you could do. You really don't need to be going to Indigo and purchasing $20, $99 books that sometimes people just hoard and accumulate on a bookshelf. If you're gonna buy books, please at least read them and then be responsible with how you declutter them. Number 10, lots of clothes. Almost all amount of clothes are a lot of clothes. Clothes serve a function of dressing you and keeping you sheltered from the elements and protect your modesty. But beyond that, all other clothes that you have beyond that is actually a luxury. How much is a lot of clothes? Let's just put it this way. You really only need one. You could technically wash it at night and wear it the following day. Yes, you'll be naked, but to illustrate my point that a lot of clothes is a lot of clothes, and that is actually the baseline. That is actually the standard. That is actually how much clothes you need. So you might want to take a look at all the clothes that you're purchasing and understand you don't need more clothes. You don't need all these outfits. All right, number 11, beauty treatments. As a fellow female who considers herself beautiful, I wanted to be more beautiful. So I bought even more beauty treatments. I bought beauty masks, I bought serums, I bought toners, I bought emulsors, I wanted to be pretty, and I thought these things would make me prettier. And society teaches you that you want to prevent aging. What is wrong with aging? At least for women, we're taught that the dreaded 30s, you don't want to start looking like you're 30. Why? What's wrong? What's wrong with looking a certain age? What's wrong with our imperfections? What's wrong with looking like a person? Ladies, and maybe even men, cut down on the beauty treatments. You're fine just the way you are. I completely understand that you want to feel and look your best, but you and looking, feeling your best is coming from the inside, not from the outside. So let's save our money. And if you want to think of it on a more practical level and less philosophical, what you eat and how much water you drink has a bigger influence, and the lifestyle that you lead has a bigger influence on what you look like than skincare. And I think a lot of people can attest to this. There's a lot of books out there. There's Eat Pretty that also illustrates that all of these skincares and things, they're just gimmicks. 12, shopping as a hobby. Shopping as a hobby is a rather ridiculous hobby. A hobby is there to serve you and enrich your life. When you shop, you consume. You're not doing, you're consuming. It just further fuels the void that you have inside, because when you buy stuff, let's all be real here, how much sooner did you feel you needed to go out and buy something? Wasn't that last purchase supposed to be the last purchase that fulfilled you forever? No, it didn't. It's a bottomless pit. So shopping as a hobby is a really counterintuitive hobby to have, especially if you're trying to climb out of debt, pay off your student loans, pay off your mortgage, get financial freedom. If you want to live below your means, consider something else, anything else other than shopping as a hobby. All right, number 13, eating out. I'm not trying to vilify eating out. I have eaten out quite a bit in my 20s when I thought it was really cool and trendy. So take this with a grain of salt, but for the most part, if you live in the West, eating out is rather ridiculous, especially with tipping, because like at least in Asia you don't have to tip, so I felt at least justified in that. But in the West, the only people I think are allowed this exemption to the rule is if you have a handicap, you're elderly, you can't cook for yourself, you're injured, then it's understandable that you would need somebody else to help you prepare your meals. But other than that, if you're an able-bodied adult, you can cook at home. Alright, 14. Wasting water, wasting electricity, wasting heat, wasting aircon. This is something where adulting 101 comes in handy. Turn off the lights when you're not using the lights. Turn off the water when you're taking a shower. Close the tap or fix the leaky tap. If you're not using the aircon, turn it off. Turn off the TV when you're not using it. Unplug electronics when they're done charging. These things do add up. Don't throw money out the window. If you want to go watch Stephen Graham, he'll tell you he does his laundry in off-peak hours. 15. Lottery tickets. Maybe you get a big rush and a big high when you gamble, but if you just want to look at lottery tickets from a probability standpoint, you're more likely to get struck by lightning twice before you ever win the lottery. And even if you won the lottery, most of those people actually for some reason end up further broke and in worse situations than they did before they won the lottery, because that large amount of money just opened up their appetite for spending. So don't spend your money on the lottery. I think I read another study that for all of the money that people spent on the lottery ticket, if they had just held that money instead, I think they had close to like $20,000. You will be better off saving that money and hoarding it, and then in 20 years time looking at it, you will have inadvertently won a mini lottery for yourself. Number 16, one-time use items. These one-time use items you have to pay for, and it's a waste of money because once you finish using it, it went in the trash and then you have to go out and purchase another one. Some that I can think of is disposable utensils, disposable plates, a disposable straw, ear cleaners. Alright, 17, ordering in. This ties in with eating out. Point that I made about it, if you're not handicapped and you can cook your own meals, please don't be lazy, because your laziness is costing you money. Packaged goods. The more packaged something is, for the most part, it's more expensive than the raw product. So when you go to the store, try to shop around the edges of the market. Go to the farmer's market is also more affordable than buying packaged stuff. Like if you look at packaged goods and you actually look at the product, you're paying for a lot of packaging rather than the product itself. Like a cookie thing is there's the packaging on the outside, then there's a little tray that the cookies come on, and then there's the cookies themselves, which I'm probably sure is worth only half of how much you paid, because you're also paying for the packaging, the labor cost, the factory making the packaging. If you can buy things in their more natural state, it'll save you a lot of money. Number 19, save more than you spend. That's the only way to climb out of your current financial situation. You can make all the money in the world, but if you spend all the money in the world, you have saved nothing. This works on all financial levels. This is a tip that I learned from Mr. Money Stash. Before that, I used to think that if I made a lot, then it'd be okay, because then I'm just spending at the standard, but because I make a lot more, I have a surplus. Figure out the best you can to save as much of it as you can. Try to reach or aim for the benchmark of 70% to 90%. Stop with this 30%. You're never going to get out of the rat race at a 30% saving rate. You can do it. You've got this. You already have everything you need. If you have shelter, food, and clothes, everything else is frivolous. Alright, 20. Create, do not consume. If you're always consuming stuff, you're going to be spending money to consume these things. If you're consuming experiences, because you can spend a lot of money on travel. It's don't get me wrong, travel definitely enriches you. But if you practice doing things, for example, doing art, doing exercise, literature, reading, in the act of doing and creating, you're going to save money as opposed to consuming things, always going out to eat, always going out to the movies, always consuming more clothes, consuming more food, consuming more media that you pay for, like Hulu or Netflix. These things cost money, so if you can cut down on your consumption and then put that energy into doing, you're going to have a good time, because you'll be making money, but you're not going to be spending it and wasting it on consumption. Alright, so there we have 20 things that you can do to help you live below your means. So thank you so much for having taken the time to watch this video, and I will see you guys in my next video. If you haven't done so yet, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. if you want to, of course. And if you're curious about my day-to-day life, you can check out my Instagram at Mignon Cobra. So till next time, bye.